What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another Call on Time Road. I'm here with Mr. Casey Patrick. He covers Tennessee. Good rivalry week, homecoming for Tennessee. We got David Pollock telling us that Tennessee's going to score more points than anybody on Georgia this year. So how you feeling about this week?
I think Pollock might be right. I just because Tennessee, I think they might get a couple gimmick scores here and there. Ooh, about dropped my phone, but they do score kind of quickly, and I'm hoping that they can get a few of those easy scores like that against Georgia because the defense is phenomenal for the Bulldogs. But it's just gonna be a really tough game for Tennessee though. Other than that, they're gonna have to find some easy scores and they're gonna have to find some sustained drives.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen looking at Georgia, last week was the first time this whole year we've trailed in the first quarter, really in any quarter. We let I forgot we played like we let them get a field goal, and then from then on, defense kind of sort of strikes, tighten up, and it's weird, we going through what we're going through with Adam Anderson. Hopefully that situation gets clear. Going through, I want to address this because I know people are, if you hear, I cover Georgia. JT Daniels wins you a championship. Stetson Bennett wins you regular season games. It's really how you see it. Stetson's gonna great. I'm gonna give him his props. I'm gonna give him his flowers, his roses, whatever you want me to give him. I'll give it to him. He's done great. He's been a great game manager for us. We haven't had any problems, any hiccups. But you know who's gonna win you that championship. I think if you're a Georgia fan, and you would hate. I think if you're Tennessee, you would hate to have JT Daniels play this week because he hasn't played in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, from my end of it, I've watched a few of the highlights from the past few weeks, especially last week against Missouri, and Bennett did make a couple throws that, I mean, kind of show that he's playing really well right now. I think that does bring up a good point, though. If JT Daniels played, then maybe he would be a little rusty or something. But I also agree that in the long run, if I was a Georgia fan, I believe JT would be the way to go because I think Bennett is what he is, and I don't think he's really, like you said, he's not the national championship guy in my mind anyway.
I don't think he is in a lot of people's mind, but I think people give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, Stetson Bennett's he's winning. I think that's what's helping him. If we would have lost the game or had a really bad offensive game, I think people would have been like, okay, you need to get JT back. But we've been able to score enough with him. Like, we can get 30 points out of Stetson. Everybody's just like, oh wow. So it's not a problem. It's not like we're going out here winning games 10-3. We're actually out here blowing people out. So that's the thing about it. I think that's what's helping him. Without, just with his whole concept of him playing. What's going on, Eric? How you doing tonight? But getting into you guys' quarterback, Hendon Hooker, he didn't start. I think he did start. I think he started this season. I remember you guys were trying out quarterbacks. I think he won the job. I remember you guys had two quarterbacks playing.
Yeah, we started with Joe Milton, and Milton just had some serious issues with his accuracy, and I think he made some misreads in the coverage. So especially also he got hurt, and that kind of slowed his development down. But Hendon, ever since taking over the job, I mean, at first it was just ball security. He wasn't turning it over, and he was making the easy passes. But here lately, I mean, he's hitting guys. I mean, he's throwing dimes to people outside, inside, short, long. It doesn't really matter. I think he's reading the defenses pretty well, and the aspect that his legs give him, which Milton has as well. But the aspect that his legs give him, it just makes it a little bit easier for us to score. It was Milton though to start the year, and the kid has got all kinds of talent, but he just had some glaring issues that took away his opportunity to start. And ever since Hendon coming in, he's put up astounding numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you guys. I mean, I think the weirdest going into you looking at you guys' record, right? I think the weirdest game you guys lost was Pitt. And then Pitt ended up being Pitt. I don't think we expected Pitt to be what they were. School, being one of the highest scoring teams in college football and stuff like that. But that was I thought you guys had that game in the bag. And it's weird, it's weird thinking like looking at Tennessee, you'd be like, okay, you played Alabama. I think everybody thought you guys. I don't think a lot of people thought you guys were gonna pull that upset. But
No.
if you would have, imagine if you would have pulled off, it would have been crazy. You guys would have probably been ranked automatically. But you going into this week, you got Georgia. You went from Alabama, and you got Kentucky. You beat Kentucky last week, and you got Georgia. So, which kind of sort of thinks you guys really should be. Are you number 2 in the East? You should be number 2 in the East. Let's be honest. But
I don't think we're 2 yet because some other teams have played more. They just have more conference wins. Of course, that may be wrong. I'd have to see it. I'm pretty sure we're still 3rd, even after beating Kentucky. I can't remember.
Yeah, because you lost. You did lose You lost to Florida, so you probably are 3rd. Yeah.
Well, and
3rd or 4th, I would think.
The one thing I was going to talk about that loss to Pitt. That was the last game that Milton started. I mean, he started and we were losing to a team that we had a strong start, a quick start in that game, and then he was pulled. And if Hendon, though, I think if he starts and plays that whole game, there were a lot of points left on the field just from missing open guys. But I've said, and the whole fan base has kind of said, if Hendon Hooker starts that game against Pitt, we win that game. But ever since then, he's been the starter.
So I mean, that's kind of sort of like okay, let's look at what the JT Daniels situation in Stinson. It's been some plays where you're like, okay, we could have got a touchdown tonight with JT, especially on deep balls, stuff like that. You're just like, okay, we know JT would have made that throw. And Stinson has gotten a lot better this year. Like over this year, he's gotten a lot better. His arm has looked a lot better, which that you don't get a 4 years. You don't usually get like a 5-year guy to be your backup. Let's be honest. You usually don't get a 5-year guy as your backup who's been at Georgia for 3 years of the 5 years. Most 5-year guys come in as graduate transfers. So you got a guy that literally grew up. Even though we've changed offensive coordinators, we haven't changed head coaches. Like he knows Kirby. He knows what Kirby wants, and he knows that last year he was with Todd, and before he almost threw his shoulder out versus Florida, we were up last year versus Florida before he got hurt. So it shows you like you're resting JT, which is really good in the long run because you got to think we're gonna have to play Alabama. You're gonna have to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. You do not want to start Stinson Bennett in the SEC championship game versus Alabama. I would rather have JT start in big games, I think, because I don't know how Stinson's going to react in big games. Now he's had some. Kentucky was a very big game, and he responded. He responded well versus Kentucky. He did good versus Auburn. He did really good versus Auburn. He did really good versus Kentucky. I mean, mind you, that was a tough stretch of games for Georgia. That mid end of October going into November was a really tough stretch, and he responded. I mean, you don't really have to see anything else from Stinson for him to prove really and truly as your backup. And you want to keep JT on the shelf because he's hurt. He's hurt. You don't want him to get even more hurt. You don't want him to get a hit and he's almost gone for the season. You don't want that for him. So that's been the only thing for him. And then so you get to now we just got the news one of our receivers just broke his leg in practice. Today, actually. We just got the news today he broke his leg. So that's another big injury to our wide receiver core. That's the bad news. But the good news is that Pickens on scout team burning guys. So that means we're getting him back pretty soon. For you guys, your receiving core, how do you I do overall offense because we talked about quarterback, we talked about receivers. We have that we have one of the best tight ends in the country. We have Lad McCogney. We still got I don't know why his name just slipped my mind. Oh, I can't think of it. But Darnell Washington, you got zero. We got three or four wide tight ends, three or four wide receivers that we know. Jermaine Burton, like these guys that have established them this season. And for you guys, what did you think? Versus Georgia is going to be hard, but in your eyes, who are some guys that you would highlight versus Georgia that you think can have a big game?
Well, I think one of the guys that has been really good all year long from the receiving corps is Velus Jones Jr. He's kind of a return guy, a shorter guy. He's not going to go up and make these, Randy Moss catches, but he does a good job of getting open. He's usually got pretty reliable hands. Like I said, he's a return guy, so he's got some electricity to him. He's a transfer from USC. He's had a pretty good year just at getting open and making plays. But here lately, Javonte Payton, the last week, he had the opening play. It was a screen. There were two guys in front of him blocked, and then he broke one tackle and took it to the house. He's got some nice talent. He's a transfer from Mississippi State, I believe. And then Cedric Tillman's he's had a few weeks here and there. He hadn't really been super consistent yet this year, but he's had a few weeks here and there and one of them was last week, where he makes quite a few plays, and he is more of a physical guy. I like his ability to go up and make catches. The one thing I will say from that end, it's probably easier to do that against Kentucky than it will be against some of Georgia's guys. But Cedric was able to win those one-on-ones last week, and to give Tennessee, a chance, he's going to, just like a lot of other guys, he's going to have to win his one-on-ones, and it is nice to have a big physical body that can do that. Our tight ends aren't really we don't use them a lot. Jacob Warren and Princeton Fant, are two of the tight ends that we have. And they're both good tight ends. Warren had a touchdown catch last week, I believe, on a play action. But the Tennessee offense, they don't use them as much, which is fine. I don't really care. I'm not going to tell Heupel how to run an offense because he's obviously better than me at it. But I see your comment down there, Eric McDowell. Tennessee has a great offense, but Georgia's defense is unbelievable, and that's the way I have to put it. I think our players are good, but got to win some one-on-one matchups against some guys that are better than the other people we faced this year.
Yeah, for defensively, man, it's gonna be really hard. Let's put it like this: it'll be really hard to do to have. The only thing I think for us is what people think they're going to exploit us on now is because Adam Anderson's gone. They're going to try to attack that linebacking core. And the thing about it is we lost Adam, but everybody behind, it's fun. It's so crazy because everybody behind us are like I had this discussion with a Florida fan, which now Georgia has flipped at least, I think, 3 or 4 Florida players now. And really, really all SEC players. We flipped a couple of them. When you recruit at the level Kirby does, any talent beneath him, beneath your starters, is going to be good. Let's put it like that. Because you're usually not going to have nothing but 5-star guys behind, or at least 3. I'd say 3 to 5 up, 3 to 5. You'll have that many guys behind, your starters. And those are guys that like Jordan Davis as a nose, he was not recruited heavy. He wasn't a 5-star D tackle. He was a 3-star coming out of North Carolina. And he just happened to come to Georgia. And now look at his senior year. He's just a menace. He's just a menace right now. So you just have to think, we're just so deep. Like, you can watch Georgia and see us rotating players out and in and out and be like, man, this team is crazy. Like, it's just like the only way I think you beat Georgia, and this is because I've watched almost every game this year. The only way you beat Georgia is if you can allow your quarterback, which Hendon Hooker is mobile, he's going to have an electric game. He's going to have an electric game with his feet. I mean,
yeah. I will say he's going to have to. That's my point. Is I think all of them are going to have to be really good. I think everybody from the offensive line to the receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks on the offense, everybody on defense, they're going to have to be really good. I mean, Georgia's obviously a really good team, and the one way I've been putting it to everybody I've talked to is Tennessee's going to have to be perfect, and Georgia's going to have to make a few mistakes for Tennessee to win. But Georgia, they can make a few mistakes, and if Tennessee's not perfect, they'll probably win. And that's the real difference between the two teams right now. I don't really know if Tennessee's offense attacks one certain group or does anything like that. It's actually really simple. They just try to get lined up before you, and there's it's usually a 2-man route on one side of the field. One of them might run a screen or like a little stick route, and the other guy runs a go route, and there's usually not a whole lot to it other than that. Or they run. I mean, they're just trying to go faster than the other team. If they get lined up and your guys aren't lined up, then they're going to try to attack whatever part of the field where those guys aren't really prepared. And that's all Tennessee's offense really does. And like I said, I mean, it's going to be hard. Tennessee's going to have to get a few of those scores that are just kind of, I don't want to call them lucky. I mean, it's what Tennessee's trying to do, but a few of those quick scores, and then they're going to have to learn how to sustain drives against Georgia. It's going to be difficult, absolutely. But I think there is a possibility there to score a few of those quick ones like we had last week against Kentucky.
Kentucky's been one of the only few teams to score a touchdown against us in the first half versus our starters. And it really wasn't even a starter, but, we'll say it was a starter. Like, you have to be fast. Like, if you think about that Kentucky game, they scored the touchdown. We weren't lined up. If you look at the Kentucky game, we weren't lined up versus that game. So that's another thing where you just have to really realize, like, you got to beat Georgia with its speed. And Georgia's fast. You have to beat us with alignment. That's another, like you said, you want to line up, you want to get these plays done. Like, you have to beat us with alignment. That's the only way you're going to really beat us. I think Wallace said it's going to be tough for teams to beat us this year with the defense playing like it is, unless we beat ourselves. And I think that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to beat ourselves. I think as Georgia, it's going to be hard for you to beat yourself because your offense cannot have a good game like we did versus Clemson. Like go back. If you go back to that Clemson game, our offense was not that good. And we still came back and we still won that game because of our defense. So you're gonna have to beat the defense. You don't have to beat the offense. Your defense can be immaculate versus Georgia, but can your offense beat Georgia's defense? That's when you have a problem. And for you, and you can elaborate this more for Tennessee. Do you think your offense is good enough to beat Georgia's defense?
I think it's kind of weird to answer that question. If we just line up, no. I mean, if we get our 11 lined up, y'all get your 11 lined up, play after play, no, absolutely not. But Tennessee's going to have to learn how to manipulate the field with time and space. And that's what that's what he's done all year. That's what Heupel's done all year long. He gets really athletic guys open in parts of the field, and which that's the thing about Georgia. They're just so fast and so strong that there's not really a whole lot of open space on the field. But Tennessee getting lined up and going fast. I don't know if that's technically beating the defense. I think it's just going faster than everybody else. Which is important. I mean, that's what Heupel does, and I think if that allows him to give himself a chance to score a few touchdowns, and by all means do it. But if we have to line up and we go slow and we play under center like this is 1990, we're not going to beat Georgia. We don't have the depth, nor do I believe we have the talent, or are we healthy enough to do it? We're not very healthy. Our offensive line's been banged up all year, but again, we don't really line up and try to beat teams. We just try to go faster. And I mean, it's worked quite a bit. We've had to line up and play a few teams, and kind of go a little bit slower. We did it a little bit against Alabama, and we were able to get some guys open and make some plays. And of course, Alabama's not the juggernaut they've been in years past, but hell, we were able to move the ball, and that kind of makes me happy. But Georgia's obviously a different monster, but I mean, we're just going to have to do everything that we do, but do it better to give ourselves a chance to win. And I think that's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, I see it. That's the same way I see it. You gotta be you gotta give yourself a shot. Like you said, you have to give yourself a shot. And what Wallace said, if you gotta run the ball, you gotta run the ball versus Georgia and think you're gonna win. Like you have to run the ball.
Oh, absolutely. And now in years past, it would have been something that was, I mean, honestly, very difficult against your type of defense. But with what the manipulation of the offensive line and the speed does, getting lined up, we're not going to run the ball on you out of I formation when you can put 8 guys in the box. We don't have Derrick Henry, and we know that. The only time we run the ball is when we can get lined up and we have more hats blocking than y'all got down there tackling, and we'll run the ball. And it's real quick and it's go. And again, it kind of gets back to what Tennessee wants to do on offense as far as going fast. Where you guys are at and how y'all line up is going to kind of alter what we do with the ball. If Tennessee can't run the ball, it's obviously going to make everything more difficult, but I don't think Tennessee's going to try and run the ball unless we line up and y'all got 5 down linemen and 2 linebackers and we've got 5 offensive linemen and a tight end. I mean, then we'll try to move because we've got numbers. We'll try to run, and we're going to run to whatever part of the field's open. But it is going to be tough. If Tennessee can't run, it is going to be tough.
Yeah, I think we had I forgot who was it. Walters, you watched the show at the time. Was it South Carolina? We had a guy come on from one of the SEC teams early in the season, and they were like, "We got to throw the ball on Georgia because that's how we gonna win the game. We gonna throw the ball on Georgia." And we were like, I was like, okay, I'll just let him go. Like my other co-host was, he was like, yeah, Georgia's second because he's a Michigan fan. So he was like, yeah, Georgia's gonna do this. Like, you can throw the ball on Georgia. And I just let them talk because the defense has shown you on so many different levels that you just can't beat. It's just so hard to beat. And I think and I'll give Pollock his credit. I think he's right. Tennessee, if you start lining up real fast and you start moving faster, you're going to beat us. I mean, not beat us. Let's not say beat us. You're going to get scores on us. You're
Absolutely.
going to beat our defense. You're going to beat especially if you get lined up faster than us, you're going to beat our defense. Because if you ever look at, this is Arkansas's problem. This was Arkansas's problem versus South Carolina. This is every team we played this year. This has been their problem. They want to get out. They want to get out the huddle. They want to see how Georgia set. You can't let Georgia set because we have a set. We literally can switch up a set in a snap. And you can't do that. You got to come out and you got to snap the ball. You got to come out the huddle and you got to snap the ball. I mean, that's just how it's going to have to go.
Oh, but yeah, we're not even going to huddle.
What'd you say?
Oh, we're not even going to huddle. We're just
I mean, that's the case. Yeah.
Over, we're going.
Yeah, and that's another thing for Kirby, because if you get in a huddle, Kirby's gonna make rotations. He's gonna put his pass rush guys in. He's gonna put his run block guys in. He's gonna make those adjustments. And I think really and truly, you're gonna make a lot of Georgia guys play a lot of positions that they're not usually used to being in, and that's gonna be another thing to your advantage. Like, if you can get Nolan Smith in coverage as fast as he is, I don't know how. I mean, he's got a pick, so I'm not even gonna say that. So I mean, he's got a lot of these guys have coverage skills. So it's just gonna be you just had to beat us. Really, you just really had to beat us. We get into some. I guess we can get into some SEC talk. Real quick to end the show. Marquise asked the question: were you guys surprised that that South Carolina destroyed Florida last week? I'll let you go first because
Okay,
I got a
I'll make
whole
mine
rant for
quick.
Florida.
I really didn't expect that out of South Carolina. If you would have told me that South Carolina won, that's one thing, and that's still really surprising because Shane Beamer hadn't been all that great in his first year at South Carolina. But I mean, honestly, if you'd have told me South Carolina was going to beat Florida 40-17, I probably would have laughed at you. But good for them. I don't really care much for South Carolina, but me and Tyrone can both agree on this. We hate Florida. Screw them. So
Yeah,
it was. I'm
yeah,
happy. I'm happy for them. Congratulations. I wish we could have beat them. Way to go.
yeah. So we beat Florida. Um, I think everybody expected us to beat Florida. I think that was everybody. That was everybody's sure bet of the weekend. Like Georgia was going to beat
Absolutely.
Florida. Um, this is Dan Mullen's. Dan Mullen got saved last year. Let's be honest. He got saved when he beat Georgia last year because he beat Georgia without a quarterback. He literally little lost last year. Stanson Bennett didn't get hurt, right? Because like I said, the score was like 20. It was 24 to like 12. So we would have won that game with Stetson if Stetson didn't tear his shoulder. Okay, cool. What have you done to help your team recruitment wise, coaching wise, anything to that extent? You haven't done anything. And that's what makes me mad as a Georgia fan because I want that game to be competitive. I don't want to be going to the next. You remember how it used to be when Florida used to dog Georgia every year. I want this game to be every when we play on that October 30th Saturday, or that really between the 28th to the 30th. When we play on Halloween weekend, let's put it like that. I want that game to be exciting as possible. You gave us you gave us 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes. 3 minutes if you can give them the extra minute. You gave us 3 touchdowns in 3 minutes. Like, let's be honest. It just doesn't. You can't. If you're a Florida fan, you have to be saying fire Mullen. He's done nothing to help that organization. Like, I mean, it's gonna get so bad down there if they keep him. It's gonna look like Nebraska pretty soon. And that's what I don't want. I don't want Florida to be the Nebraska of the SEC. And Tennessee's getting better. It's funny. I would be okay if Florida was bad and Tennessee was bad. But Tennessee has gotten better. You guys are at least attempting to be better. So it's just like you got to make the East competitive. As much as people love to hate on the East, for Florida to be bad, it just makes the East picture look worse.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky beat them. That's when it really got bad. That's when we should have known it was something wrong with Florida. When Kentucky beat them. And then Kentucky was undefeated. And I was like, okay, so the East is getting stronger and Florida's declining. You got to get a new guy in. You got to get somebody new in, somebody young. I don't care if you bring in Tebow. I don't bring in somebody that's going to bring some excitement to Florida. Really and truly. Because Dan Mullen is going to ruin that franchise. He's going to be not even friend. He's going to ruin that college. Really and truly. Marquise, I like this question. How do you feel like do you feel like Tennessee can beat Oklahoma or Texas in a few years from now?
Oh, well, if Tennessee was playing Oklahoma today, that would probably be kind of rough. I mean, I still think Oklahoma's a little bit overrated, but Tennessee's still got a long way to go when it comes to just overall talent on the team and depth. They've got like 70-something scholarship athletes, so beating Oklahoma would be pretty difficult. Beating Texas would be a track meet. I think it would be the game that everybody kind of envisioned between Tennessee and Ole Miss, which didn't actually happen the way I thought it was going to happen either. But
I thought y'all were gonna have like 50 points each. I thought it was gonna be a wild game.
Absolutely insane. But I think that's the kind of game that I'd kind of think Texas might be, kind of like last week's was with Kentucky, where the team scored like a combined 88 points or whatever it was. I think it's something more like that against Texas. But I think Tennessee could beat Texas. it kind of depends on how they grow over the next few years, how we grow over the next few years. But Tennessee beating Oklahoma right now would certainly be a tough test.
My thing, I think I say in a few years, if Tennessee can recruit, this is my whole thing now, and this is I love the philosophy of Kirby. It's like you got to recruit. You have to recruit. Like there's not and to come out. I don't know if you saw the guy that flipped today from Florida to Georgia. He said it himself. He said, I was talking to linebacking coaches. I wasn't even talking to my wide receiver coach. Like, you have to have a great, and he said the thing about it is Georgia offered him a scholarship in 8th grade, and he's been talking to our receiver coach since the 8th grade. The same guy since the 8th grade. So it's the same thing with any school, which is weird because I thought when Tennessee got Bobo, I thought you guys were going to be a different. I maybe we'll talk about that because I thought y'all were going to be one of the better schools, and that didn't happen at all. But I think this is what going into the SEC the next couple of years. I think where they supposed to come. I think they're trying to push it, but I think it was going to be 2020. 2025 was supposed to be their first year. I think in the SEC. So 4 years from now, we really and truly, I really think they're going to move Auburn to the East. You can give your opinion on this, but somebody was saying I heard somebody say, well, they can put Texas in the East because they already got A&M, so why not just put Texas and then have the East versus West? I heard somebody say move Auburn and Alabama to the East. I've heard people, kick some teams out, stuff like that. But for you, what do you think happens alignment wise?
I think they're gonna one's gonna go east, one's gonna go west. I don't really know if it bothers me who goes where or when. I've always kind of been under the mentality that Tennessee, it doesn't really matter who they play. If Tennessee's going to be good, they're going to be good. If Tennessee's going to be bad, they're going to be bad. And every once in a while, don't get me wrong, I mean, like Georgia this year, Florida in 08. I mean, every once in a while, there's a good team that is beating everybody, and that's going to happen regardless of where you're at. But I haven't really given it much thought as to who goes where, but I don't know if it really bothers me. I don't really want to lose any more teams, but before too long, I think there will be. There's probably going to be a lot more teams that join the SEC, and you're probably going to see something more of like I don't know, more like an NFL setup if you've got more teams and you're going to have to play cross divisions and conferences and or like the AFC NFC would be, but it's all one conference. But it's gonna be weird. But I think the SEC is just gonna keep eating up teams, taking on Clemson and Florida State and whoever else that shows up.
Yeah, I think we'll bring in Clemson. I think we will bring in Clemson. I think Clemson won. If I'm Clemson, I want to leave. I'm not gonna lie. If I'm Clemson, I want to leave the NCAA. But you never know. I guess we can end.
I'm not really sure what happened. I don't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying, what are your thoughts on Coach Hubel? We'll end it with that.
Okay, yeah. I like him so far. I think he's kind of a weird guy. I mean, I think he's kind of out there and what he wants to do, and his mentality is different. And Honestly, you know what? These kids like it. I think he's built a positive mindset around the program and the kids that are in it, at least amongst them anyway. And I know that a lot of people have this love affair with coaches like Nick Saban that are old school and hard headed and really stubborn, stuff like that. I think Heupel's a little bit more free, easy going, and I like it. The one thing that does scare me is recruiting. I don't know if it's not. I don't know how good he's going to be at it. But I mean, you and me both know, and every other SEC fan that has a brain cell or two, they know that in order to run this race, you got to have the right horses, and you got to go out and you got to get the fastest, strongest kids you can get, and Heupel's going to have to work on that end of it, just because we haven't been nuts in recruiting yet, but. I kind of have no doubt that once players start to see the way this offense operates and how much fun these guys are having and how much better this university's playing, I think kids are going to start lining up at the door to play here. Just because I know I would, but obviously I'm biased.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Casey. Tell everybody where they can get to see your opinions on Tennessee football.
My Twitter is at CVP51. I'm also on a podcast of my own called the Offensive Line Pod. We've been off this week because our producer's got a messed up tooth. But we talk Tennessee football, but we talk all kinds of sports: NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever. So come by and check out that podcast. Like I said, my Twitter is at CVP51. I've always got an opinion about something, so feel free to follow and be ready though, because I am kind of full of it.
Always. Thank you for coming on. Everybody in the comments, thank you guys for coming and watching. Definitely want to shout this guy out. We will have him back on sometime. Probably a bowl game. Whenever Tennessee bowl game, we'll probably have him back on. For bowl season. Thank you again. You guys know you'll see me sometime next. This actually probably tomorrow. And Saturday for the post game show. So thank you again, Casey. We're gonna get out of here. Peace.
Thanks.